VYEPTI is a prescription medicine used for the preventive treatment of migraine in adults. Do not receive VYEPTI if you are allergic to eptinezumab-jjmr or any of the ingredients in VYEPTI. Please see the important safety information at the end of this video.
So I'm Kate, I'm a somatic psychotherapist, and I specialize in working with people with migraine. And I also experience migraine.
Well, I also experience migraine. I'm Adrienne, and I am a yoga teacher specializing in yoga for folks with migraine. And I think it's so important to have that lived experience for doing what we do. But tell me, what does that look like to be a somatic psychotherapist? What is that?
Yeah, I know. So somatic therapy is a different way of doing psychotherapy. Psychotherapy traditionally is very talk oriented, right? Talk therapy focused, and that's fantastic. And somatic therapy makes room for the body and the nervous system and identifies and acknowledges that those parts of us have a lot of wisdom and information. And you know, we definitely talk, but we also listen and get curious about what's happening internally.
Yeah, a big part of what you do is part of yoga as well. And I love that idea, like we're not just separate from our heads and our bodies, we're connected. Someone with migraine comes to you and wants to have this, you know, different type of therapy. What would that look like for them? How would it be different for someone living with migraine in particular?
Absolutely. Well, I think it depends on the person and what they're looking for, and it's not going to be right for everybody, but I will say that for a lot of the people I work with, we're building safety and we're building connection and ease, and there's a lot of focus on getting curious about like what compassion might be for them, what support might be for them. And so we're going to learn about what they, you know, what their relationship to themselves already is, if they feel safe in their body, if they don't, what the, you know, like what we can practice together and learn together. A lot of people with migraine really, you know, myself included, have complicated relationships with our bodies when we're in pain that kind of can show up at any moment. It's really scary and can feel really hard to be present. And so somatic therapy makes room to try to practice being present in the moment and working on building capacity to be with the joy and the fun as well as the pain. And so it's really, it's going to look different for every person, but it's a really collaborative and creative process.
That sounds amazing. And yeah, I love that idea of bringing in more joy and safety, because migraine can make our lives feel so limited and small, and find ways to open up our experience, even with the pain. How does that, you know, balance work out? Like, you know, how do you do that in a somatic way?
I think part of it is about just accepting the current moment, right? And like, yes, I'm in pain and that's okay, and I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna be okay. And it not being a failure when pain shows up. I think I hear that a lot of like, when pain shows up, it's like, oh, I didn't do the right stuff today. It's not your fault, it's a neurological disease. What would it be like to practice gentleness and compassion and warmth? And that can be hard to access, especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah, and that connects to that idea of self-compassion, that this is where I'm at today. What other ways that can we offer that to ourselves?
One of the things that I love doing with people is something called orientation, and it's really about letting your system orient to the space that you're in. It feels very basic, but it's really supportive. And what it can look like is literally just noticing what's around you, noticing what sensory things you're picking up on, what you can feel or smell or hear or see, and just taking your time to be with that. It gives your nervous system a chance to slow down and kind of reset in some ways.
Yeah, I do something really similar. Like I call it the 5 senses meditation. Where you're giving your nervous system, your brain, a chance to kind of take in what's coming at you, because with migraine we can just feel like, there's so much, so many sensory things that we can get overwhelmed with. And so when we can bring curiosity to it, you know, can help decrease that fear. So when we notice ourselves, you know, especially like our pain is flaring, maybe we're getting into the height of a migraine attack, and we notice, you know, our thoughts are becoming more negative, we're getting harder on ourselves, like just life becomes so much more overwhelming. Like maybe we're, worried about the rest of our day, the rest of our week, the rest of our lives with migraine. How do we start to shift things in a way that is more supportive?
So even as you were just describing that, you got a little faster, right? It gets, I know what it feels like, right? Things just move quickly and they get really big, and everything becomes everything, and everything means everything. And I think that is a very familiar thing for people with migraine, right? It just feels so enormous and can feel like so out of control. Yeah. And so I think that part of what we practice is slowing that down, taking just a moment to see if there's room to, this might be a great time to try some of that orientation practice of noticing what's around you, listening to something, calling someone, doing something, even like humming or singing can be really useful in moving your awareness outside of that internal like spiral moment that I think a lot of people experience with this. Really, it's just about pausing that cycle and finding anything else that could be just a different experience to be having in that moment.
What are other ways that we can incorporate more self-care, support ourselves day to day to help build that sense of joy and gratitude so migraine's not just the main focus of our lives?
So one thing that we can do to practice this is finding some cozy projects that are just about feeling good, having fun, being in the moment. Those can be things that really end up helping us find some of that regulation and calm. We can do things like knitting or yoga, or some people play video games or cook or listen to audiobooks or work their way through a series of movies. It depends on what feels good, but this can also be a really nice way to, again, build some connection with self or invite someone else in and have some of that co-regulation.
Your mood feels better, and having that flexibility, like you talked about in the present moment, where, it doesn't have to look like what we used to do exactly, but if maybe, maybe you used to go to concerts, but now we can listen to a song like at home, and it still like brings up that same joy, and makes it feel more manageable. Are there other like routines or self-care habits that you find that have helped people to weave that sense of coziness into their lives?
Yeah, I think this is a place where there's so much room to work on that cozy, connected relationship with self, because this can look literally however you want it to look. I know that for some people, having something in the morning that really starts the day in a way that feels good and supportive and fun, I think can be fantastic. I know some people have like calming or fun morning playlists, or a meditation or a stretch routine. I know in the evening, doing something to signal to your brain that it's time to rest can be great. And that could be something like a really like fun skincare routine, or a relaxing face massage or something like that, taking jewelry off, lighting a scent-safe candle, whatever that is. Building whatever feels good. I really feel like just moving towards what feels good is such a fun part of this. And I would also say with any routine, trying not to try all of it at once. I know the impulse can be to like just do all of it at once, and that's just hard for anybody to keep up with. So I might recommend, and again, depending on the person, one thing for, in the evening that might feel really good to try. A tea that is really delicious, or whatever the thing is, and then going from there and seeing how that feels.
I definitely find like the more we're able to do things we enjoy, the pain feels less important, and like
exactly.
Like your mood feels better.
I find that a lot of the people I work with migraine have struggled with their relationship with their body. I have experienced migraine for over a decade. I'm very familiar with this. It's hard to feel safe and comfortable in your body when you experience pain that can come at any moment. You don't know when it's coming, can bring a lot of like terror and hypervigilance, and that makes it really hard to feel like comfortable and safe in your body. And so a lot of what the somatic work does for people with chronic pain and migraine is helps you notice other sensation, not just the pain, helps you practice noticing when you're feeling good or neutral, helps you find more room for other things in your life that aren't pain related.
Please listen as we share important safety information about VYEPTI. Approved use. VYEPTI is a prescription medicine used for the preventive treatment of migraine in adults. Important safety information. Do not receive VYEPTI if you have a known allergy to eptinezumab-jjmr or its ingredients. VYEPTI may cause serious side effects such as allergic reactions. Call your healthcare provider or get emergency medical help right away if you have any symptoms of an allergic reaction. Rash, swelling of your face, lips, tongue, or throat. If you have trouble breathing, hives, or redness in your face. High blood pressure. High blood pressure or worsening of high blood pressure can happen after receiving VYEPTI. Contact your healthcare provider if you have an increase in blood pressure. Raynaud's phenomenon, a type of circulation problem. Raynaud's phenomenon can worsen or happen after receiving VYEPTI. Contact your healthcare provider if you have symptoms such as your fingers or toes feeling numb, cool, or painful, or changing color from pale to blue to red. Before starting VYEPTI, tell your healthcare provider about all your medical conditions, including if you have high blood pressure, circulation problems in your fingers and toes, are pregnant or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding or plan to breastfeed. Tell your healthcare provider about all the medicines you take, including any prescription and over-the-counter medicines, vitamins, or herbal supplements. The most common side effects of VYEPTI include stuffy nose and scratchy throat, and allergic reactions. These are not all the possible side effects of VYEPTI. Tell your healthcare provider if you have any side effect that bothers you or that does not go away. You are encouraged to report negative side effects of prescription drugs to the FDA. Visit www.fda.gov/medwatch or call 1-800-FDA-1088. For more information, please see the prescribing information and patient information on VYEPTI.com.